Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Blaze here, coming at you with an Elder Scrolls lore video, and I think I'm going to start doing these because I'm very interested in the story of the Elder Scrolls, and I'm sure a lot of you are too, especially if you are... What the fuck? Alright, he spazzed out for a second there. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are too, especially if you are an avid Elder Scrolls fan. So... a lot of people don't understand the story of the Elder Scrolls Online. A lot of people say, oh, it doesn't fit into the Elder Scrolls, it doesn't make any sense. And the game gets a portion of hate because of that. And I'm here to clear that up. You really need to dig deep in the Elder Scrolls timeline to understand all the events that are conspiring in this game and where it is in the grand scheme of things compared to games like Oblivion, Skyrim, Morrowind, that kind of shit. So, to start off, the Elder Scrolls, just the general timeline is divided into eras. There is the Dawn Era, the Merethic Era, the First Era, the Second Era, the Third Era, and the Fourth Era. So this game takes place in the Second Era, and it is, I believe, one of the first games to take place in the... There are like one or two. I think Redguard might take place in the Second Era as well. But there aren't many games that take place in the Second Era of many Elder Scrolls games, because the majority of games take place in the Third Era, because, you know, in the Third Era you have the Oblivion Crisis, Morrowind takes place during the Third Era, Daggerfall, I'm pretty sure, yeah, Arena and Daggerfall do as well. So the majority of the Elder Scrolls games are in the Third Era, and... to be honest with you guys, the Third Era is really interesting. Like, a lot of shit happened, you know, with the Oblivion Crisis, Martin Septim, the Amulet of Kings being destroyed and shit like that. But to be honest with you guys, I think the Second Era is more interesting. And the reason why I think it is because you have things happening like the Elder Scrolls Online with the Three Banners of War, which is the Daggerfall Covenant, the Ebonheart Pact, and the Aldemary Dominion. You have the rebellion against Leovic. You have frickin' Tiber Septim, which is like the most famous figure in Tamriel's history, becoming the god Talos and starting the Septim dynasty and all that shit. So I think the second, and all that stuff that I just listed does happen in the Second Era, you guys. So I do think the Second Era is the most interesting in terms of lore, but that's my opinion. So to get started, so this game... So in year 573 of the Second Era, Baron Aquilarios overthrew Emperor Leovic, which was the last of the dynasty of Reachmen known as the Longhouse Emperors, and they conquered Cyrodiil. After they legalized Daedric worship, a lot of people got pissed off because Daedric is like, you know, the equality to, you know, some satanic evil religion. So Baron Aquilarios started a rebellion and led that rebellion against Emperor Leovic. And after a long and bloody war, Baron did kill Leovic in his throne room, and he declared himself the Emperor. Now, you guys, if you know a lot about Elder Scrolls lore, to be the Emperor of Tamriel, you have to be a Dragonborn. And a Dragonborn is a mortal who's destined to do great things. He can wear the Amulet of Kings. He is meant to be the ruler of Tamriel. So obviously, Baron Aquilarios was not born a Dragonborn, but he still overthrew Emperor Leovic. So that all took place in the 573rd year of the Second Era. So now we're in, flash forward 3 years, the 576th era, or the 576th year of the Second Era. And Baron Aquilarios is still ruling as Tamriel's emperor, and he wants to legitimize his claim to the Ruby Throne, and so he forms the Five Companions, which is made up of Baron Aquilarios, Sai Sahan, Lyris Titanborn, Manamarco, and Abner Tharn. And you'll hear a lot about them later in this game, because that's a pretty big deal. So he forms the Five Companions, and their goal is to find the Amulet of Kings. They don't know where it is. They want to find it so Baron can try and become Dragonborn, although that's fucking impossible. You can't just become Dragonborn. Hence the name, you are born a Dragonborn. You can't become one. But they're going to try to do it anyways. So they're going to try and find the Amulet of Kings and try to legitimize Baron's claim to the throne. So, you know, he could become Dragonborn. But no, the Five Companions... so, in the 578th year, so 2 years later in the Second Era, they find the Amulet of Kings after 2 years of searching, they find it from Sacre Tor, or whatever his name is. And in that same year, the Soulburst takes place, which I did a video on the flashback of that the Prophet shows you, which is when Mannimarco betrays the 5 companions. So Mannimarco, one of the 5 companions, betrays Varen Aquilarios during his attempt to use the Amulet of Kings to become Dragonborn. Even if Mannimarco did not betray, that still could not happen, because you can't fucking become a Dragonborn. If you could fucking become a Dragonborn, everybody in Tamriel would do it. So yeah, that doesn't work. So Mannimarco corrupts the ritual, and he breaks the covenant with Akatosh that sealed Nirn in Oblivion. And Oblivion's like the hellish realm. That's, you know, I'm sure if you're an Elder Scrolls fan, you know what Oblivion is. And Nirn is just another word for Tamriel and the realm of life. So the barrier between that is shattered, because in order for a barrier to be placed between Nirn and Oblivion, dragon fires have to be lit, and there has to be a Dragonborn ruling Tamriel. So that wasn't the case. And Mannimarco pulled some bullshit and shattered that. So that's what happened. And then after that happened, that gave Molag Bal the opportunity to start opening up these dark anchors, which are those things you see in the sky. And I showed you you escape Cold Harbor in the tutorial through one of those. So that gave him the opportunity to start invading Tamriel. And that's why you see those popping up all throughout Tamriel in this game. It happens randomly, but there are some at iconic locations. Like there's one at the Cloud Ruler Temple in Cyrodiil, and there's one over the Imperial City in Cyrodiil. So yeah, so Varen is killed. He's lost, but major spoiler. Pause the video if you do not want a spoiler. This is a really, really big spoiler. So I'll give you guys like a 5-second warning. Pause the video if you don't want to learn anything major to this story. So, if you haven't paused the video yet, then it is revealed that the Prophet is indeed Varen Aquilarios. He was taken to Cold Harbor in the beginning of the game in the tutorial. Mannimarco took him there because he knew he was Varen Aquilarios and he wanted him to be captive. And now Varen is blind and crippled. So the 5 companions are split up. Varen went into hiding. He created the false identity of the Prophet. Lyris is captured by Molag Bal, as you saw. She tried to help us get out of Cold Harbor, so she's still there. Sai Sahan fled, and he took the Amulet of Kings with him, and he managed to hide it in Sacre Tor. And more spoilers, you guys. I would just, if you're not one for spoilers, I would just fucking leave the video, but I'm gonna continue anyways. So, but later on, he suffered the same fate as Lyris. He was captured in a Cold Harbor, and Mannimarco began torturing him to find out where the Amulet of Kings is, and our soul was included in the sacrifice, because Mannimarco sacrificed many souls, and I guess the vestige, which is what they call our character, our soul was also sacrificed. So that explains why we were in Cold Harbor, and that also explains why we didn't have a soul. So Abner Tharn, he fled as well. He ruled as Overlord of Nibene, but Mannimarco, he allied with Mannimarco. And his daughter, Clivia Tharn, ruled as the Empress Regent of Tamriel. And Clivia Tharn was the wife of Emperor Leovic, and then after that she was the wife of Varen Aquilarios. So they're both gone, supposedly. Leovic's fucking dead, but Aquilarios is the Prophet, and he's in hiding, but people think that he's dead. Nobody really knows that he's the Prophet, and you don't know that until later in the game anyways. So Clivia Tharn is really the only one here to rule as the Empress Regent, but she is secretly evil. She worships the Daedra, and the general public of Tamriel don't know that. So that's the deal. That's what's going on there. And so yeah, that all happened in a lot of shit happened. That was all in the 578th year of the Second Era. So, so 2 years ahead, the 580th year of the Second Era, Queen Irene, which is the leader of the Aldmeri Dominion, returned to the Somerset Isles, and she became the Queen of Alinor. She became, the Queen of Arden as well, and she forms in the current chaos of Tamriel. She forms an alliance with Valenwood and Elsewire, however you fucking say that, to create the Aldmeri Dominion, and that's how the Aldmeri Dominion was created. And then High King Emmerich of Daggerfall became the leader of the Daggerfall Covenant by uniting the Red Guards, the Bretons, and the Orcs. And then Jorun, the Skald King, however you say his name, formed the Ebonheart Pact with the Dark Elves, the Argonians, and the other race I don't remember, but whatever. So that brings us to, so in the 580th year, the Three Banners War starts with all three, because there's really, I mean, Clivia's technically the Empress Regent, but there really is no true person ruling Tamriel, ruling Cyrodiil right now. Right now, it's technically Mannimarco, because the Prophet even says it. Mannimarco pulled that shit. Yeah, he worships Molag Bal, but he wants power for himself, and that's what every evil person wants. They want power and attention. So Mannimarco sits on the Ruby Throne right now, and his worm cult has invaded, and they're very strong in this game. Like in Oblivion, they're kind of strong to the enemies of the Mages Guild questline, but in this game, they're really fucking strong. Mannimarco is a lot stronger in this game than he is in Oblivion, and he's technically ruling Tamriel. He's giving Clivia Tharn. Clivia Tharn worships him. Mannimarco may not be a Daedric prince, but he's very, very, very strong. So he's really, really, really fluent with Daedric magic. He's, I guess they call him the strongest necromancer in Tamriel's history. So he is one of the most powerful Daedra to ever exist. Some say that he's even more powerful than some Daedric princes, which is believable because he's fucking crazy. But he's not a Daedric prince, you know. He's just a mortal elf. So he's very strong for being that. So Mannimarco rules Tamriel right now. Molag Bal is a big villain in this game, but I think it's more centered around Mannimarco being the bad guy. But it's really up for you to choose. What the fuck? Oh no, thank you. But yeah, so those are really the main two bad guys in this game. So now, flash forward to the second era, 582nd year. That is the year that this game currently takes place. And that is during the Three Banners War. All three of these factions are fighting over the Ruby Throne. All of them want to rule Tamriel. But none of them is paying any fucking attention to the fact that Mannimarco is invading Tamriel by opening up these dark anchors and sending in these Daedric essences, creatures and shit. They're too caught up, and that's what Mannimarco wants. That's what he wants them to do. He wants them to get distracted from the fact that the true threat is the Daedra and Mannimarco's worm cult. So that's really what he's doing here, and really all these factions are just picking daisies, fighting each other. I want to rule. No, I want to rule. And on top of that, none of them is fucking Dragonborn. So even if you did, you still, the barrier between Nerd and Oblivion would still be open because there's no Dragonborn with the Amulet of Kings. So that's not really, it doesn't really matter anyways who were to take the throne. So that's really what's happening right now. And this is quite a while before Tiber Septim comes along. So let's flash forward a very long time. The second year, or still the second era, 830th year. The Aldmeri Dominion. So the Three Banners War ultimately ends up with all three of them getting weak. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but that's pretty much how it ends up. A lot of people know that because there's really nothing too much to spoil because we kind of went back in Elder Scrolls history. Skyrim takes place in the beginning of the Fourth Era, so we definitely went back. What the fuck? Oh, that's a player, never mind. But yeah, so people kind of know, like, Elder Scrolls fanboys like myself who have been playing that series for a long time already know about these events before this game was even created. But now that this game is created, it's really nice to be able to live through all of that. And what I'm really hoping is that they do bring Talos or Tiber Septim into this game. I want to see this game span. I don't want it to be just the Three Banners War. I want this game to go a long way because usually MMOs last a long time. And the Elder Scrolls Online, I think, is going to last a long time because it has a lot to offer and it's only coming out with more content, It's a lot like WoW, which has been around since 2004. So over 10 years, you guys. So hopefully this MMO will last just as long, if not longer. That would be really, really nice. So I'm hoping that if this MMO is going to last a long time, we can see a lot of Elder Scrolls historical events from the Second Era take place, such as Tiber Septim coming along, creating the Imperial Empire, becoming, he was, like I said, you can't become a Dragonborn. He was born a Dragonborn, destined to do great things. He started the Septim Dynasty. So, yeah, that's pretty much So let's say we're